Hey everybody. I know this is a bit of an unusual video to get out, especially if you've seen my stuff in the past, but I genuinely can't get enough of Dying Light 2. I may have said it before, but this is one of my favorite games ever, and it's literally the game that I play both to turn off my brain and engage in some fun parkour or brutally satisfying combat, the former of which we will be covering today. Now, given that it's Dying Light, one of the main attractions of the game are the chases. Chases are given some much needed love throughout the series and are arguably made more horrifying in the second game, as the chasers come out from practically anywhere. Under buses and cars, from tents and vans, crashing through windows, crawling out of vents, or just wandering in the city. The trigger of the chases are also different. Unlike the first game, where running into a volatile and killing a vulture would trigger a chase, they're instead exclusively triggered by pissing off a howler, an enemy type that is somehow more asthmatic than you are. Though it's a debate to be had. We'll get into that in a bit. Once a howler is alerted, the first level of a chase starts. You'll be running away from virals, which is much more player-friendly than getting chased and pounded by an actual powerhouse of rotting flesh, with their numbers increasing at the second level. The third level is things will start to heat up though, as volatiles will join the scene. As mentioned before, these things are a powerhouse, having the highest toughness and damage output of any standard enemy in the game, and are also hard to shake off without making variations in your route and elevation. Along with the fourth and final level of the chase, which will almost exclusively have volatiles chasing after you. Now that we've covered what a chase is, along with some of the details on it, let's talk skills, strangely enough. Skills are nearly pointless to cover, as it should be noted that pretty much all of the parkour skills are necessary to have good odds at a chase, but the combat skills that you may need include the smash, smash jump, air kick, and the vault power kick. The smash, smash jump, and the air kick are a great way to add an extra layer of safety for landing if you can't find amortizers, cars, air vents, or simply too high for a safe descent with the active landing. And the vault power kick helps greatly if you are vaulting while an enemy is in front of you. They may be in the combat range, but they add an extra layer of utility with your movement. I should note that the active landing have a purpose in that they will allow safe descent from a low enough position without enemies, and the smash and the air kick allow for safe descent with enemies. One might question why I'm emphasizing these skills without acknowledging the paraglider, but we'll get into that in a bit. Next, let's talk equipment. There are three pieces of equipment that are paramount to maximize your odds of surviving a chase. These items are the regen booster, UV bar, military medkit, and the grappling hook. The regen booster blueprint you can get from liberating Jack and Joe's camp in the Horseshoe District in Old Villador, so you can get the blueprint fairly early in the game. It's absolutely necessary to upgrade this as much as possible, as maxing it out gives you 3% of your health every second for 3 minutes. You need a handful of these to survive an entire night, and popping them immediately after one depletes is needed to add another layer of protection. Moreover, in this current version of the game, blocking instantly after adding the regen buff will interrupt the rest of the inhaling animation, letting you resume your sprint. The UV bar is more of a last resort, and despite the fact that I have it nearly maxed out, you don't really need to get it upgraded from what I understand. If necessary from getting overwhelmed, just pop it immediately below your feet and do an enemy jump to escape the pileup. Wish I could say that when I was commuting for college. Military medkits are of a similar deal to the UV bar, in that if you really need to get your health back to max, just use one and keep running until you can get the regen booster from a safe spot. Though if your parkour is good, military medkits and UV bars can both be negated from your letout. Then there's the grappling hook. This item is an absolute beauty for anyone playing this game, especially considering the rework that it's had since the first game. Unlike the first Dying Light, where it's a static and linear movement from one point to the next, you instead have to shoot the hook to a point such that you will pivot around a corner or swing like a pendulum to safely enter an entranceway, or making your net descending speed low enough for an active landing. I advise getting the grappling hook to level 2 at least, for the boost you get from yanking yourself to where you're looking, which can allow you to skip the climbing animation to getting over a ledge. Then there's the paraglider. This may seem useful on the surface, as you can traverse the map without touching the ground and allow you to use air vents, on top of not requiring an accessory slot, but again, if your parkour is good, you won't really need it. Besides, with the fact that the base running doesn't require stamina consumption, you don't really need to use the paraglider as much, especially as the deploy time may be enough to kill you from fall damage if you're too low enough. But its ability to rapidly elevate one up by a floor cannot be ignored. As far as gear, go for a medic build. These give you an additional parkour XP multiplier and incentivize base regen speed without using healing items. Don't rely on its regen though. It's only for a relatively small amount, so if you don't run fast enough from getting absolutely railed by DPS, you'll end the chase 6 feet under. I should also note that while I don't use these as much, stamina boosters might be helpful if you're darting a lot, but it's more optional with the air vents as the paraglider already instantly brings your stamina back up to max when using it on them. Last, let's talk about the general route that you'll need to prolong a chase while staying on your feet. The best thing to do is to stay low, as odd as that may seem. This will guarantee triggering howlers, allowing you to keep the chase going for as long as possible, especially if you want to avoid backtracking to get the attention of a viral or volatile. Though, having the attention of either 3 will be enough to prolong the chase. Avoid areas with THB spills, especially if you're at a relatively low level, and on that note, be sure to keep track of your immunity. When it's hitting yellow, you have about 2.5 minutes to get to UV light, which means it's time to change elevation. Do not use immunity boosters or the UV shrooms. They may slow you down enough for the infected to catch up. Don't use UV bars to get your immunity up either. That's a waste of a potential free escape. Instead, try to make it to a UV zone. Going for a safe zone may also work, but if you stay in either for too long, you'll end the chase. UV zones are more abundant, can be ran through, and will add time to your immunity, keeping you up. I should add that every night lasts about 50 minutes, which is every in-game minute being 4 seconds, so 4 minutes per in-game hour, and the night lasts from 7:30 p.m. to 8 a.m., which is 12.5 in-game hours, if you were curious. The key of mastering the parkour is to run more than you can climb. This means you have to avoid straight scaling and to instead use wall runs, tic-tacs, and the grappling hook to efficiently change elevation. It also goes without saying that the central loop is the best of the 2 main areas in the game to do chases, and as air vents are mentioned a lot, it should be noted that it's best to align with the survivors and have them claim at least 5 districts in order to have an abundance of air vents. And I suppose that's it. I made this video under the assumption that there may be new people coming into the game, as I'm trying to get my friends to experience it, and I also made it for people that may need a little bit of help with their chases. It should go without saying that other people may have done similar guides, but I love this game, and I've never done anything like this before, so I genuinely could care less. But with that said, I'll leave it there. I was going to follow this up with a chase done from the polar start to the polar end of a night, but given how long that would take, and since I imagine this video will already be long enough, I'll save that for another time. Let me know what you think of this format, and let me know if you want more, as I'm planning to do another one on grinding the game's infected trophies. But with all that being said, I'll see everybody around.